I used to think bad credit was mostly about not having enough money. Then I saw something that completely destroyed that theory. One person was making around $45,000 a year, credit score above 750. Another person was making more than $1 lakh a year, credit score below 600. Same country, same economy, same banks, but completely different outcomes. That shouldn't be happen. So I start digging. I look through credit reports, study credit rebuilding stories, analyze the pattern behind major score improvements, and eventually, I noticed something strange. The people who gained 100, 150, even 200 credit score points were making completely different decisions than the people who stay stuck. Not because they were smarter, not because they earned more, because they stopped sending lender the wrong signal. And what's interesting is that credit score were never designed to measure income. They are designed to estimate risk. Whether someone is likely to repay debt as agreed. That's why a person earning less can sometimes have dramatically better score than someone earning much more. And once I saw those patterns, I couldn't stop seeing them. Today, we are counting down the five biggest differences between people who gain 200 credit score points and people who spend years wondering why nothing changes. And the biggest difference was not what I expected. The first pattern was obvious, but it's also the one people underestimate the most. Late payments. Everybody know they are bad. What most people don't understand is how much damage a single late payment can create. Because lenders don't see excuses, they see signals. A missed payment tells the system one thing: this person did not pay us agreed, and that's a big deal. In most major scoring models, payment history is the largest factor affecting your credit score, which means one mistake can outweigh months of good behavior. I saw people spend months improving their credit, then miss payment, and suddenly much of the progress stalled because credit scores reward consistency, not intentions, not promises, only consistency. The people who eventually gained 200 points was not perfect, but they become predictable months after month. And lenders love predictability. But then I noticed something surprising. Some people never missed a payment and still had terrible scores, which led to the second difference. One report stood out immediately: no late payments, no collection, no major disaster. Yet the score was struggling. The reason? A credit card with $1,000 limit and a balance over $900. At first, that doesn't seem like a huge issue. After all, the person was making payment. But scoring models saw something different. They saw utilization. And utilization turned out to be one of the most misunderstood concept in the personal finance. Because credit score don't just care whether you pay. They also care how dependent you appear to be on a borrowed money. The same card can send two completely different signals. And that's why two people with the same debt amount can have completely different score. The people who gained 200 points were not necessarily paying off every dollar overnight, but they consistently lower utilization month after month. And the lower those balances went, the stronger their profiles start looking. But then I found something even stranger. A mistake people make right after doing something responsible. Imagine finally paying off a credit card you have been fighting with for years. Feels amazing. So you closed it. Most people think problem solved. But that's not always how the scoring system sees it. Because when available credit disappears, utilization can instantly rise, even if spending stay exactly the same. And I saw this happen repeatedly, not because people are careless, but because nobody explained how the system works. The people who improve the fastest learn to ask a different questions. Instead of am I done with this account, they start asking what signal does this change send? The mindset that showed up again and again, and it becomes even more obvious with the next difference. And by the way, if you are waiting for some secret credit hack, everything I have seen suggests the opposite. The people gaining 150 or 200 points usually are not doing something extraordinary. They are eliminating the exact mistakes we are talking about right now, one by one. That's what makes the next difference so important. This was one of the clearest patterns. People stuck below 600 were constantly looking for shortcuts: a store card, a financing offer, a personal loan, a credit builder product, another application, then another, then another. They were not trying to hurt themselves. They were trying to fix the problem fast. But desperation creates noise, and lenders notice noise. Meanwhile, people who eventually gained 200 points did something different. They slowed down, they become selective instead of chasing every possible solution. They focused on improving the accounts they already had. And over time, the differences become obvious. One group was constantly restarting the process, the other was building momentum. But there was still one final pattern, and it turned out to be the biggest difference of all. When I start researching credit improvement, I assume the biggest factor would be debt. It was not. Then I assume it would be income. It was not. The biggest difference was patience. Seriously, the reports look different. The incomes look different. The age look different. But the pattern stays the same. The people who remained stuck wanted immediate results. The people who gained 200 points focused on consistent behaviors. By reducing debt, fixing payment problems, avoiding unnecessary applications, and staying consistent for a long time. The people who improved stopped asking, how do I raise my score this month? And start asking, how do I stop hurting my score? That's a completely different mindset. And that's where real improvement starts. I remembered a guy who was sitting around 520. His problem was not income. His problem was not intelligence. His problem was not bad luck. It was patterns, late payment, high utilizations, too many applications, years of sending lender the wrong signal. Once those signals start disappearing, the score starts moving, almost a 200-point improvement. Not overnight, not magically, but predictably. Because credit score don't measure how much money you make. They measure how consistently you manage credits. And that's the lesson most people miss. The people who gain 200 points usually are not doing something extraordinary. They are simply stopping the behavior that keep everyone else stuck. If there is one area where people send the wrong signals without even realizing it, it's collection. Most people don't understand when collections hurt, how they are reported, what changes after they are paid, or why some collection mistakes can damage scores for years. That's exactly that we are covering next. Because for many people, collections are the single biggest obstacle standing between their current score and the score they actually want.